Hello everyone and welcome to The Public Space. Today we will be slowly discussing the news. It's our Subscribe Star and Patreon day. So after this show we will have the private Subscribe Star and Patreon hangout. If you haven't joined up to now is a good time to join. This is going to be around 9 p.m. Eastern Time. But before we do that, we do our regular show. And we'll be talking about impeachment and all sorts of news with Sityan Rabbit, a returning guest of the show. How are you doing, Sityan Rabbit?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
All right. So I don't even remember. What did we talk about last time you came on the show?
Well, we talked about the revolutionary phenotype and we had a debate on libertarianism.
And since then, I actually found out through genetic testing that I am Scythian. I am Frank Gall, firstly, but I am also more Scythian than 96% of the people submitting their data to a certain website. So, are you Scythian too, or is that just your nickname?
Yeah, just a name. Yeah, I might be Scythian. I think I would have to get a test to confirm.
All right, so let's talk about what's been happening in the news. Hunter Biden has been giving an interview. I will review the full video tonight later, once we're done with the interview with Sityan Rabbit. But this comes into this whole impeachment thing, which, my God, is very poorly managed on the side of Democrats. And I think that the best case scenario is this for Trump. It is a situation where the Democrats look so bad in this process that they destroy themselves within rather than destroy Trump.
Well, I have a different opinion on this. My view, first of all, we have to look at the composition of the Congress and the Senate, because impeachment is just an indictment. It's just an indictment to start the case on the Senate floor. I mean, then the Senate will investigate the trial, and afterwards, the Senate has to vote in a two-thirds majority. I mean, it will require, I think, 66 votes for the Senate to actually remove Trump. Now, Clinton was impeached, but he was acquitted by the Senate. Now, we have to look at the composition of the Senate in that 52 senators are Republican. Now, even if never Trump senators like Romney, Sassy, and Collins, all these never Trumpers, if all of them cross the floor, I think it would still be at best about 58 to 60 senators. So there's no chance of impeachment actually happening. What will happen, I think, is a drama that will benefit both sides. The Democrats will impeach him, the Republican Senate will acquit him, and then the Democrats will go into 2020 with the slogan that Trump is a tyrant, he's becoming a dictator, our republic is ending. I mean, the evil Senate Republicans are preventing his removal. I mean, they're going to go about all that hysterical nonsense, and you know the progressive crowd, they'll believe anything. If they can believe that, I mean, a man who puts up a dress is a woman, I think this is not that much of a far stretch. So the Democrats will really be energized. And as far as the Republicans go, they also benefit, as Trump will be able to claim this victim card. The look, I'm completely innocent, but they're still persecuting me. The Senate acquitted me, but they're still persecuting me on what is completely bogus charges. I mean, let's get this straight. I mean, the president of the United States, he's completely in his rights to demand an investigation into a foreign country about US corruption, especially to one that receives aid. I mean, this is not real grounds for impeachment. So impeachment won't happen. What will happen is a big drama. The Democrats will also go into the election energized. The Republicans will also be energized with Trump's victim card. But I don't think much will come of this. Just let's see. I think my bet is on the Democrats to win the election.
Well, very interesting. As a reminder to our audience, join us on Entropy. It's my favorite platform for super chat. So if you have questions, send them there. Our survey of tonight is, does Hunter Biden have 2 digits IQ? Which is following his interview on ABC, which is quite funny. So on what you say, well, a thing that advantages both sides, I think You are correct, but in politics there is no such thing. In the end, it plays on one side or the other. It removes vote or adds vote. And the Democrats have been leading this which will result in putting Trump in a position where he is the most performant normally, which is the position of everyone after him, everyone with knives wanting him down and him getting the best out of it. Just like the 14 women with these 6 allegations that they had done during the campaign. He's very good at surviving this and looking persecuted. And I think that the Democrats have mismeasured the consequence here, just to satisfy their far-left anti-Trumpers who think we live under a fascist regime. They will lose a part of their middle base, the base that is not thinking that Trump is a dictator, fascist, or anything like that.
Yeah, but the thing is that Trump was able to get elected in 2016 because he had this alternative influence network. I think an expert named Robert Epstein went to Congress and he actually testified that Google swayed at the minimum 11 million voters, and this was in 2016. Now, fast forward to 2019, a lot of his YouTube base has been destroyed. I mean, they've been deplatformed. As far as I see, all their channels have been throttled, and much like that. And Trump has not delivered on his core promises. So a lot of his voters might not be energized. And then there's the prospect of demographics. I did a video on this titled that why Trump has already lost the 2020 election. Now, the thing
very interesting, because Tim Pool just released a video saying Trump was essentially sure of winning the election unless there is a historic turnout.
Yeah, let me tell you why he might have already lost the election.
Okay.
The first thing is that, okay, let's take the electoral map of 2016. Now, Trump won 305 electoral college votes and Hillary won, I think, 233. Now, the problem is that, let's say there is one state, it's Florida. Now, Trump won Florida in 2016. Now, Florida has 29 electoral votes. Now, Trump won Florida by, I think, 150,000 votes or some margin like that. Now, the problem is that in 2018, the Democrat-controlled Congress of Florida passed a bill called the Felon Act. I mean, it gave voting rights back to 1.5 million felons in Florida. I mean, this is devastating, and 80% of these felons are Black or Hispanic. So you have to understand how devastating this is. So this might have already automatically given the reins of victory in Florida to the Democrats, because 1.2 million, I mean, that's a huge number.
So and what are you saying? 1.2 million felons that were, how do they end up in Florida?
No, these 1.5 million felons, they already existed in Florida, but they were denied voting rights.
Oh, okay.
Now they've been given voting rights back. And Bill Maher did a segment on this. He openly bragged that this is the state that decides our election, and now it's going to flip. Now the point is that 1.2 out of these 1.5 million are Blacks and Hispanic, mostly men, and they have no reason to vote for Trump. I mean, the Democrats gave them their freedom, and plus there's the racial aspect. And now if you minus 29 votes from Florida, Trump can still win, because that would leave him with 276 electoral votes. So, but the problem is then with Arizona. Now, Arizona is also a state Trump won by a razor-thin margin, I think a few 10,000 votes. Now, the problem, and Arizona has 10 electoral votes. Now, Arizona has a worse demographics than Texas. I mean, it's only, I think, it doesn't clearly reveal, it doesn't sparse. I looked at its demographic, but it doesn't sparse between whites and Hispanics, but a clue can be gained from its bars data, and only 40% of Arizonian babies are white. So the demographic situation is bad, and the Democrats won it in 2018 with a very unpopular candidate, which was openly caught bad-mouthing Arizona. And Arizona is one of these states that receive the most Mexican immigrants, and many of these Mexicans will come of age. So this state might have also flipped, and if Arizona has also flipped alongside Florida, which most likely has, so that reduces Trump's electoral votes to 266, below the 270 threshold he needs to win. Now, unless he miraculously manages to hold on to all his Rust Belt states and take a state like Illinois, I can't see Trump winning the 2020 election.
Well, that's very interesting. Those are very solid arguments. I wasn't aware of that. If we're talking about felons suddenly having the right to vote, this was given by Florida. It was done by Floridians, but it will have an impact on the federal election?
Yes, because these people will be able to vote in the federal election. I mean, this with one stroke of the pen, the Democrats have essentially, I mean, taken out one of the biggest, let's say, taken out Trump's queen on the chessboard.
Wow,
I mean,
well,
it's really devastating.
I think I must admit that I'm very impressed by your analysis, and it leads me to consider that Trump may be in more trouble than I thought. At least from a action perspective, we can say that he's done the best to be reelected. I think that he's done as good as he could given the political constraints on him. I think he's delivering really a powerful image, and I think that if America votes for the Democrats, it will not be with great enthusiasm, because ultimately he was a good president.
Yeah, I think I'll have to disagree on that, because I think Trump has failed on several of his key policies, I think, which could have been done with executive power. I mean, one of the most devastating for me, I mean, one of the eternal rules of politics is that you come into power and you punish your enemies and reward your allies. At the very least, you reward your allies. Now, Trump has done the opposite. He has punished his supporters and he has rewarded his enemies. I mean, all his cabinet is stacked with people from Goldman Sachs, the neocon wing of the GOP, these Pentagon bigwigs, all of whom who opposed him. Now, the thing about Trump, I mean, a lot of Trump voters are disaffected with him because he gave a tax cut to billionaires that didn't benefit them. He wasn't able to overhaul Obamacare, which is not entirely his fault. It's also the Republicans' fault. But the most devastating of all is that he hasn't been able to do anything on censorship. And and remember, all of the mainstream media in 2016 was dead set against him, all of them, even Fox News. Trump only managed to win because there was this hole in the, let's say, iron curtain of censorship that was the media, the YouTube, Facebook. Now, all his supporters have been purged. Many of them have been, I mean, battered with, I mean, legal cases. He has not done anything on Antifa. He has not done anything on censorship. So even if I was just from an electoral perspective, I would want to deal with the censorship issue. He could have instructed his he could have instructed his Department of Labor to classify, to regard all the YouTubers and Twitters as employees of these companies and bring them under employment laws. He could have directed his Treasury Department to consider these companies as public utilities. He could have brought a motion to the Congress when before the 2018 midterms. That would have, no Republican congressman would have had the balls to vote against it, and as they were running for re-election, and this would have, and the Republicans controlled Senate and Congress too. So it was a golden opportunity to pass, at least do something on censorship, but he didn't. All he has done is he's deported less people than Obama. He has record immigration, and plus, I mean, he has not been able to build the wall. He has not been able to bring manufacturing back. Manufacturing has declined. So I don't think Trump's base is all that happy with his pandering to Israel and this global promotion of LGBT. These are losing him voters. These are not gaining him voters.
Very interesting. I think you're right on censorship. He could have done better. And I think that the internet is much more stepped over in terms of censorship than it was in 2016, and we may have difficulties generating enthusiasm the way we did in 2016, which contributed to my rise on YouTube. I don't know if the same excitement will be present in the air, given that we're not monetized anymore. It's harder and harder to get the social media to even recommend our videos. We get, like I had today, we get a label. Yesterday's show, The Public Space, which is the show on the global climate debate, where I made the case that greenhouse effects exist, and we had a guest that says it doesn't exist. And look at what they've added below the video, a little educational link: global warming. Quoting Wikipedia, global warming is the long-term rise in the average temperature of the Earth's climate system. So they are using their platform to push a certain side of the debate, where I'm trying to give a neutral place where we can discuss these things. They are treating my audience like idiots.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the unfortunate thing is that YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, these things have essentially become like the Soviet Pravda. I mean, it's just promoting mainstream. I mean, if you go on Wikipedia on any political topic, I mean, it's all propaganda. It's all propaganda from these, I mean, cultural Marxist stuff. So, I mean, and as far as global warming is concerned, I mean, I've been reading this. What's your opinion? I'm a bit skeptical on this, actually.
What's my position on global warming?
Yeah.
Well, my position is that there's lots of angles of attack that we can give on global warming to the leftists, essentially, which are using this scientific possibility to justify essentially pushing communist policies. But I don't think that the right attack angle is the one from Joseph yesterday, who came here and said the greenhouse effect doesn't exist because I have alternative equations, and who really didn't demonstrate that the greenhouse effect doesn't exist. The greenhouse effect, it's a very precise claim about how CO2 upper layers of the atmosphere on Earth release a certain amount of heat into the universe, into space. And I don't think that this is the right angle. However, there are many things on which we can be skeptical. We could be skeptical that the heat is dangerous for the environment, that it's going to lead to catastrophes, that we must act through the state to stop it. We can be skeptical of I don't think we can be skeptical of the fact that the climate is heating, but we can be skeptical that a human change of behavior will induce any improvement that is measurable in nature. Those are the best angles of attack in my view.
Yeah, I mean, the whole global warming thing. I mean, I remember a time when the issue was global. I mean, at first it was global cooling. I remember when I was young, I mean, I'm 24, the issue was ozone layer depletion. Now then it's global warming. Now it's climate change. I mean, the whole thing seems to be a charade just to, I mean, impose worse life standards on Western countries. Get people to eat bugs for the environment, stop eating meat. I mean, you have to give up your automobiles. That means essentially giving up your freedom of transportation. Now you're reliant on the government system. And to transfer a huge amount of wealth from the first world to the third world in order to bring them up to a much more level where they can consume Western goods, the goods of these Western companies. So the whole thing, and it's most of all, it just seems to be a justification to create a global state. That look, we have this global crisis, and we need globalism. We need to dissolve national boundaries. We need to surrender powers to the EU, and the UN. I mean, just like the Soviet Union was the boogeyman during the 80s or 70s, this seems to be the new boogeyman to justify globalism and this United Nations agenda. I mean, it's very suspicious.
Absolutely. The big problem it's pretty much in line with third worldism and the transfer of our production capacities, because if we act unilaterally like Greta Thunberg asks us to do, then we are just transferring our industrial processes to China, essentially, because whichever country wants to do these things that we don't want to do because they pollute, they will end up doing them and selling stuff to us. So it's definitely in line with third worldism. All right, Sityan Rabbit, was there anything else you wanted to discuss tonight? I have to move on to a solo part of the show, but if there's anything else you wanted to talk about to our audience, now is the good time to say it.
That will be all. It's no problem.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And you have a YouTube channel. I see that you didn't upload for the last 3 weeks, but the description is in the link is in the description below if people want to follow you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Bye-bye, Sityan Rabbit. All right. Tonight we